All right, welcome everybody. This is our Budget and Finance Committee meeting. Public notice is hereby given that this meeting will occur electronically without an anchor location in accordance with Utah Code 52-4-207 Rule 4 due to infectious disease COVID-19 novel coronavirus. The Budget and Finance Committee Chair has determined that conducting a meeting with an anchor location presents substantial risk to the health and safety of those who may be present at the anchor location because physical distancing measures may be difficult to maintain in the Murray City Council chambers. Councilmember Dominguez is excused for this meeting. Everyone else is present. And we will get started with Blaine in the Power Department. Welcome.
Make great comments.
No.
Okay.
It's all you.
I wasn't sure if Brenda was going to introduce us or not. But, thank you. This is always a pleasure each year to come with you a balanced budget without any intentions of rate increases, without any major, changes to the existing budget. We have a big budget. It's one of the bigger budgets, if not the biggest budget in this city. Majority of our budget is related to purchase of power. I mean, we pay the power bill each month like you do as a homeowner, but also ours is much larger. Ours is in the $1.5 million range is a normal power bill for us. In past power meetings or past council meetings, we've talked about where we buy our power from, how we generate it. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on that. Although on page 112, or let me see, on one of the pages, 122, it details where we get our power from. And we'll get to that in a moment. We want to go through some of the major line item changes we've had for this past year or for the upcoming year. I appreciate Greg Milan and Bruce Turner being with me by my side. This is our senior management staff. They're the ones that helped implement and correlate and collate this budget together with most kudos probably go to Greg. And so we'll turn some time over to Greg here in just a second. It is a balanced budget. We don't expect to have any rate increases through the small commercial, large commercial, residential rates. We have other rates that we are more smaller or less willy, but our large commercial rate is huge, as you can see some from the revenues. So let me, with that, we want a Q&A as we go, or we can wait at the end. I don't think if you've gone through this process before, you'll be surprised by much of anything we present. But just, $40 million budget is big money. But over $20 million of that is just a pass-through cost for the power purchase. So with that, I'll turn the time over to Greg, and he can maybe line item some of the capital projects we've got. We do have a big capital project expenditure expected this year. We've got some vehicles we want to move forth, several big dollar item vehicles, as well as we have some changes in our metering and infrastructure we want to work with. So Greg, why don't you take it from here, and then we'll just pop in when we need to,
okay.
Bruce and I.
Well, if you turn to page 116, that's the beginning of our, shows a staffing document and capital projects. So you'll see one change. If you're looking at the staffing, you'll see there's a zero over on this year's budget for generation substation manager. We reclassified that position and hired an apprentice, we hired a journeyman substation technician. So that's about the only change really to our staffing documents. We have 2 open positions that we're looking to fill. Hopefully, metering technician, we want to hire one more metering technician. We'll do that after this budget year starts. And we still have an open position for engineering manager. So we're hoping those 2 positions will get filled in the next budget year. So, but they are budgeted and ready to be taken care of when the time comes. So, any questions on staffing? I think it's pretty much the same. We didn't change any full-time employees at all, just rearranged a little bit. So, and if you look at capital projects, we do have some vehicles that we're looking at replacing, which we put off for a while. But figure this is a good time to look at replacing some of those. And if you have, do you have any questions on anything we're replacing there? If you go to the next page on 117, probably our biggest outlay is we're looking at going to AMI metering system. We broke that into two budget years, so $3 million in this coming budget, and then there'll be about a possible another $3 million to finish that project for us. And that brings us kind of, right now we have what we call a drive-by metering system where we drive by and get the reads. We go to AMI and we'll be able to have those reads come directly to us, which is going to will be pretty amazing with our new SCADA system that we've just installed. It's going to go hand in hand with that. So it should hopefully make us more reliable. Not that we're not reliable, but will help in identifying outages and a few things like that. So we're looking forward to that.
Several cities in the state have already done that. In particular, Provo City has already implemented the AMI, which is an acronym for Automated Metering Information.
Something like that.
Anyway, we're gathering, rather than just reading the meter, we're able to actually have one back-to-back correspondence. It's just going to increase our efficiency as far as reliability and outages. We'll be able to almost, perhaps, in a way, know when outage happens before the first phone call comes in because we'll have interrogated meters. I'm not saying that's going to be it, but it's the wave of the future. In fact, it is the present, and we're just a little bit behind. But it's a big expenditure. You figure we have 18,000 meters in the city, 14,000 approximately are residential, and approximately 4,000 are commercial. And it's just not an overnight deal where we have to go out and then individually we'll have to change every meter out one by one. But it's the way to go. We feel like it's the way to go. And time to do it.
I don't know if you were planning to mention the benefits to the customer as well, with them being able to monitor their usage on a day-to-day basis and an hour-to-hour basis.
That's a great point. They'll have real-time accessibility to conservation, you might say, Mayor. If they put some conservation projects in the house, they might be able to, over a matter of weeks or months, determine whether they've actually saved kilowatt hours by doing that. I know Provo City in particular, they have the situation, we're talking about shut-offs. They have 30,000 students come through every 6 months, I guess you could say, as their semesters change. And they'll be able to, or they have been able to, start and stop meters remotely rather than send somebody out and say, oh, student Joe changed over to student Bill. They'll be able to do it remotely. And that is going to be a huge benefit to our customer. But you're right, as far as real-time information data collection, it's going to be a win-win for us and a win-win for the customer as well.
Sure. Thanks, Mayor. Any questions on those couple pages?
So if they're doing Bitcoin mining, then they'll be able to control that.
Yeah, we'll be able to track that a little closer, maybe.
That would be good.
Are you starting a mine? Are you going to start mining Bitcoin?
No. I've just been hearing about it a lot. So
Well, it's out there.
yeah, I know. It takes a lot of energy.
It does. It sure does. So if you just kind of that next page just kind of shows you. So we're going to have a little bit of an outlay of capital this budget year, which is understandable. So if you look at that, $5,020,000 is what we're looking at spending over for infrastructure and all our capital projects, which includes our vehicles and, of course, that metering system and building repairs and upgrades. So. Well, let's just jump right into page 118. And that's right there. So if you look at the revenues, so if you can look at each sector and you can see what brings in the most revenue. Of course, residential is half of it. Large commercial is about the other. Well, it's more than, if you look at that all together, we're looking at 485 for income on revenues, which that's pretty substantial if you think about it. But it kind of I like the way it's detailed, so you can just look right down there Pull attachment fees, connection fees, everything is just detailed right there. And that's our income. That's our revenue. That's how we are able to do what we do as a power department. So, and if you look at right down at the bottom, we're going to be looking at using about 7.8 million in reserves this year. So, which is good because our balance is good right now, and we think we can use those reserves in a way that'll make our system better. So, do you have anything you want to add there, Blaine?
Greg,
Yes.
could you explain the UAMPS energy sales 78% change?
Yes. So what happens is we get, so sometimes we have extra energy. So during the day, we try to meet our guys are up there just trying to get our input versus output where they need it. But there's just some times that we're a little bit long. So we sell energy back to UAMPS. And we just kind of aligned that to where estimated actual is going to be about 400,000. So we just bumped that up. Is that your best recollection as well? So we just tried to bring it in line with what we think the actuals are going to be. So just went from 225 up to 400,000. So, anytime we have a little extra power, we sell it back to UAMPS, and they don't give us what we paid for it, but they give us a pretty reasonable price for it. So that's kind of our excess.
Right.
That's our excess sales.
So you're just going to have a lot of excess, more than usual.
Yeah. We'd rather be selling a little bit back than having to buy it at at a $200 megawatt hour when we can get it for 40. So, but yeah, we like to be a little bit long instead of short but our guys do a really good job up there. Our dispatchers, they're looking at that every hour, and they're doing a good job. They're forecasting. With our new SCADA system, we purchased a weather module that is going to be pretty impressive because it'll overlay our mapping system, and they'll be able to see, clouds rolling in, lightning strikes, just the weather. And the weather is huge as far as our powerly needs for the day. If it's really hot and all of a sudden we have a cloud cover come in, all of a sudden air conditioners aren't kicking on as much as they need. So they're adjusting that hourly. So yeah, so that's a good, 400,000, I think in our budget is not too much to have in excess. So it's a good, that's a small amount that we're actually selling back, which is pretty amazing actually. So
Great.
Good
Thank
question.
You.
The thing to remember on that is, as we're selling our surplus, we're also buying other people's surplus as well on different hours. That's why we cooperate within that UAMPS group, is what Brigham City has on the table we might buy. What we have on the table on a different hour, Heber City might buy. So it's a cooperative agreement between the UAMPS group. And like Greg mentioned, our dispatchers are on that every hour of the day. They watch our load. And with a click of the mouse, they can make a $1,000 purchase of power, or they can sell power, that type of thing. So the value of a UAMPS organization is that we can cooperate amongst the other cities.
And I want to give a shout out to Brenda. If you've noticed, she's probably told you this, but you can look and get down here. You can see the notes on some of the things that have changed, which I really like that. So I think that's excellent. So Brenda, thank you. Let's move to the next page. There's not, as far as administration wages go, it's pretty much the same. If you come down on page 119, if you go down to professional services, which is about a little over halfway down, you'll see professional services, and you'll see if you went to the right, you'll see 100% increase. We would like to propose a master plan development for our power department, and we'll hire a firm to come in and help us look at what our needs now and even like 20 years down the road. And so I think we'll benefit quite a bit from a master plan, and we're looking forward to that, having someone come in and actually look at our system in detail. We can do that as well, but it's nice to have someone from the outside world. There's engineering companies that this is what they specialize in. So that's the extra $100,000 in that professional services for a master plan that we'd like to see develop this this next budget year. So we're looking forward to that. Pretty much go to the next page, 120. We're looking at looking at design and engineering for our substation central sub. So that's the extra 300,000 into that account. We really haven't made a lot of changes to this budget. If you can tell, if you look on the right, you see a lot of 0% change at all. So if even on the next page, 121, we have some bigger accounts in there, obviously, but that's all our overhead, all our underground, all our street lights, all our lighting is all in that account, and that's Bruce's area for distribution. So they have a pretty healthy budget in there, but we're excited. We've got a new pole testing company coming in. Bruce could probably tell us a little bit about that, and that's in the material overhead. Sorry, you got it.
So in the past, we've used a company called Osmos that came in and tested our poles for us, and we broke the city up in sections to test them, make sure they're safe, make sure they're good for the guys to climb, so they don't tip over and stuff. But dealing with some of the people around the state, they have come across another company that will come in and test every pole we have in the system in like a 2-month time frame at the same cost as Osmos was charging us to do just one section. So we can have the whole city done pretty quickly and pretty efficiently. So I just made the decision that we'd go that way. See if it works this year, and if it doesn't, we'll go back. So.
And that's just part of our maintenance program that try to keep the power on. So we're grateful to have companies that'll come in and do that for us. If you go down into dispatch area and operations, there's some small increases there. I mean, 200% increases, but overall in smaller numbers. But just this is related to our SCADA system. We'd like to get some training for our dispatchers on our new SCADA. And with them working shift work, it's hard to send them to training. So we usually send our Corey Kowalski, who's our lead dispatcher. He's over our dispatch center. We'll send him usually somewhere to get some training on the SCADA system. Then he'll come back and teach. But we'd also like to bring someone in and do some in-person instruction with our dispatchers when we can. So between that and then just supplies for our SCADA system, we're just about done. We're getting close. And it's an amazing, the SCADA system is amazing. So that's takes care of that page. Any questions so far? Any other questions? If you turn to 122, so purchase power. You look down there, look at 22,345,000. That's a chunk. That's a chunk of money. But that's all our resources. That's our resources listed there. Blaine, he can talk. You want to talk about them at all a little bit?
Yeah, I think there's two resources that I want to mention. One is the San Juan resource. It's a coal-fired plant down in the Four Corners area by Farmington, New Mexico. It is being phased out this next budget year, 2022. We have 1.6 megawatts. It's a small 2% of our load comes in from that power plant. But it is falling to the environmentalist pleas. And so it is legislatively being shut down this next year. So next year, when we make this presentation, that line will be gone. The San Juan line will be gone. The plant will be not demolished, but mothballed, and we move on. It's a small load for us. Some of the other UMS members have a little more ownership in that, but the majority of it were the California entities that owned the majority of that plant, and because of the mandates from Sacramento, they just aren't able to bring coal plant kilowatt hours across state lines into California. So this is one of the power plants you hear in the news that's coal plants that's going to meet its demise, and that's going to be, I believe it's fall of 2022. So that'll be zeroed out. We will find other ways to find energy. We have other resources we're grabbing. One of them is the large-scale solar that we have agreed to, the council has agreed to, that's being built as we speak down in the Navajo Nation. That's another area or another place we can get our kilowatt hours from to replace the San Juan. So, right now we have $650,000, and that'll get us through this year, and then that'll be zero next year. The other one I want to mention is a natural gas turbine. We will have $400,000 budgeted for next year for natural gas. As you know, the turbine plant is on 4800 South, right here in the midst of Murray City. We have 3 turbines, about 33 megawatts of capacity in 3 different units. We plan on using that turbine a lot this coming summer. It's going to be an interesting summer. The volatility of the market is going to be really interesting. We've tried to line up some summer load product, and the pricing is just astronomical, and we can't figure out why. But Greg and his group are lining up a $3 a decatherm. What would you say?
Natural gas.
A commitment to buy natural gas at $3, which will allow us to generate more than usual. At least we're hoping to generate, so we don't have to buy in the market, because the market seems to be high right now, and we're not willing to pay astronomical prices. We think we can do better through the natural gas. So we are upping the natural gas budget a little bit. And if we were to run more natural gas turbine than we originally thought, that will lessen our reliability or need to buy from somewhere else. The resources, if we buy from one, we'll buy less on the other, this page. Some of these we're committed to, but for example, the power pool and the power exchange, the 2.2 million and the 1.5 million, we budget kind of worst case on that, but if we buy less from the market, it means we're going to buy more from somewhere else. And if we make the right decision, we will have bought it at a cheaper price. So although 22.3 million is a good bottom line dollar, the sub numbers up in that makeup are remain to be seen. But the trust and the faith is we can keep it at 22.3 million, whether we buy it from plant A, plant B, plant C. That remains to be seen. But it'll be a real interesting summer. July and August are the big months. The other months we can handle pretty well, but we can see July and August get out of hand, but we don't expect that this year. So, 22.3 million is a big line item, and that's our bread and butter. And the rest of the budget hinges on this guy making sure the right deals are made on story 2 of 171 West, 4800 South.
That's right.
Pressure's on.
Yes, it is. Blaine mentioned the pool and the PX. So the PX, the power exchange, we call it the PX. That's where we actually buy and sell most of our power. The power pool, some of it gets purchased from there as well. It just depends on what's the best price at the time. So it's it's our whole department really working together, and this is just one of the vital areas that is seen a lot on paper. So let's go over to 123. This has a few notes to it. So we're looking at upgrade. So there's still a few meters in the city that are not being read, even with our drive-by. So we're trying to upgrade those metering installations. So we've budgeted some numbers for that, or some money for that. So that kind of goes into small equipment, travel and training in our metering. We've got someone training in the apprenticeship program. So travel and training's bumped up a little bit there for our apprentice, which our apprentice is actually a journeyman lineman. So he knows the system, but he's learning some new metering stuff. So it's awesome. He's doing really well for us. So then just in those accounts in metering, we've bumped up some upgrades, current transformers, which are, we call them CTs, and that's just so that we can monitor higher voltage or higher amperage services. Anyway, without getting too detailed, it's just all of our metering right there in one group that's being affected right now, and might be that way for a few years as we get things taken care of. So especially with the meter change outs that we're going to be doing. So,
Greg?
Yes.
So you're anticipating a lot more overtime?
Yes.
To make up for...
Yeah, so a lot of times, Yes, that's a good point. Thank you. And I meant to mention that. So in these change outs, a lot of people don't like their power turned off in the middle of their, and I don't blame them. You know, if you have a customer that's there trying to earn money, if they close at 8 o'clock, they'll let us come in at any time after 8 o'clock and make those changes and turn their power off so that we're not impacting their livelihood. Anytime we can, so that there will be some overtime involved for sure. And that's shown in that overtime line in the personnel. So, but yeah, that's what that's going to go towards. So thank you.
Thank you.
And last page, I just kind of a detail of everything that we do. And of course, want to do a shout out to the general fund transfer of $2.9 million. Sorry, Blaine, it's yours.
I don't know. Well done. Remember, 2.9 million. We're happy to help.
We appreciate it. Our citizens appreciate it.
I mean, we appreciate it, Mayor and Council. You guys, thank you for all the support. So, but if you have any questions, feel free. But I think we've been very conservative in our numbers, and we're usually very conservative. And that comes from Blaine. He does a good job of steering our department in the right direction. So, kudos to Blaine as well. So, and Bruce. So.
Any questions from the council?
Nope, it's just good to see you guys. It's
see you
been
too.
too long. My goodness. Thanks for being here.
It's been a long year.
Yes. Well, we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ken.
And yeah, if nobody else has any questions, then you're off the hook. And have a good rest of your day. Thank you. Up next, we have Melinda with Community and Economic Development and the RDA.
Well, I should have brought my whole posse with me like the power department did. Let's see. Well, I'll start with the general fund budget, the community and economic development. In short, my three departments, I mean, we have a more straightforward budget than some of the other departments. We have our 1301 fund, which is the community and economic development portion. That's the fund where the salaries for myself and the economic development specialist, Jay, come from. We really didn't have any changes in this aside from trying to restore the budget to the pre-pandemic levels. And I did bump up the travel and learning wages slightly to account for traveling to the quarterly meetings for the Utah Alliance for Economic Development. They have quarterly meetings around the state. They usually try and alternate each one between somewhere along the Wasatch Front and somewhere in the rural community. So actually 2 weeks ago, we were here in Murray. And before that, it was in St. George. But they asked me to serve on the board. So I feel a little more compelled to go to those meetings that are off the Wasatch Front. So, and then also hoping that we'll maybe be back to some more travel, normal travel and training opportunities this coming year. So other than that, would there be any questions you have in the 1301 fund? Okay. So my 1306 fund is the building division, and we really don't have a whole lot of changes in this as well. There's no staffing change requests. On a side note, I am happy to report we just had a building inspector 3 start this week. So that's some excellent news. And we now have all 3 of our inspector positions filled, although one of them we're underfilling and training with someone that we hired out of the Parks Department. But that's great news for our budget overall, because we've had to augment those vacancies with contracted services, which tends to be a lot more expensive. We still don't have the plans examiner position filled, but hopefully we'll be able to find someone now that we have the inspectors filled as well. So again, with this budget, I did increase a few of the line items just a little bit to account for having a couple of new employees that will need to get outfitted with uniforms versus, getting 5 or 6 new shirts and a jacket up front versus just kind of replacing a couple of shirts each year. So I bumped that up slightly. Also, I bumped up the books and subscriptions. Part of that is because we need to get Bluebeam subscriptions, software. Our subscriptions have expired, and then there's the ICC releases books, updated books every couple of years, and this is one of the years that they have more releases on the books. So again, travel and learning, we did add a little bit there as well to account for having a new inspector that we're trying to get up and certified and trained. So we've added in a little bit there for classes, returned the supplies budget to the pre-pandemic levels, and then we also added in a little bit to our small equipment fund because our staff, our inspectors are out in the field with Surface Pros, and those are not part of the general computer replacement program. Those need to be replaced through the small equipment line. So we have a couple of Surface Pros that'll need to be replaced this year. So that's really it for the building division. We also did an increase in the credit card fees. We anticipate going to, hopefully in the next couple of months, we'll go from Munis to a new software program that will be a lot more friendly to those who want to submit plans and do those electronically and pay for building permits electronically through the use of the software. So we believe that will bring about more individuals that will be using credit cards to pay fees versus checks. And so we wanted to bump that up a little bit, anticipating for those changes. And then the professional services line, the 4,300, that's the one where we've had to augment our staffing vacancies out of that line. And so we have bumped that up. We use that. We don't have anybody certified on staff to do structural engineering reviews, and we can't really anticipate when those will come in. Those we always have to contract out. Our plans examination will still need to send quite a bit of that out as well. But I think because we will be fully staffed, hopefully as we get one of our younger inspectors up and certified, you'll perhaps see that trend down a little bit. But wanting to kind of anticipate that we still will have to do the plans examining, we've elected to increase that line item. And then it may go without saying, but the nice thing about the building division is that all of the building permit fees and revenues that come in go to support and pay for this fund. So in theory, it's not one that is a subsidized division. It's self-funded by all of those permit fees that and the plan review fees that we charge. Any questions on that one? Okay, well, next is our planning division and business licensing, the 1307. We did ask for a staff member to be added to the planning division. We're requesting a senior planner. And if I can go through a little bit of history with you on this briefly, I'd appreciate that. But in 2017, we had an employee retire. He was a senior planner. That position was never replaced with a senior planner, but it was replaced with more of a division manager type of a position, maybe even equivalent to Greg from the power department, kind of like an assistant director. During that time, planning business licensing was part of the administrative ADS, is it Administrative Development Services. So when my predecessor left in 2018, the department was reorganized, and what that left us with was a position, a very high-level management position that really was no longer needed, especially because previously, Tim was officed over here at City Hall. I am officed over there where my department, where my divisions are. And so in January of 2020, so nearly a year and a half ago, we eliminated that development services manager position, which was Jim McNulty's position. And so while Jim was in that position, he was doing some work that was beneficial, some proactive work, some kind of project management work. But what I have found, and the reason why I'm requesting this, is that we really just don't have adequate staffing in the planning division to be proactive at all, to work on projects, to really do much as far as forward thinking. We're kind of just treading water and struggling to keep our head above water with that. So in short, the senior planner is a request to replace that senior planner position that was never filled when Ray Christensen retired in 2017. So it's been nearly 4 years that the planning division has not had that senior level planner. And so the request really is to just kind of return that position back to the division in relation to the position that was used, that funding was used to create the development services manager position. It would be a cost savings based on what we had in the budget prior to eliminating that position. But we don't, essentially we have three planning staff who answer phones, they go to the counter, they write staff reports, they are putting out fires, answering questions for citizens, and doing the planning commission. We also have the hearing officers, we have the MCCD. And what I found is that just really we don't have time for involvement in other things such as Wasatch Front Regional Council, which is very heavy into regional planning. We talked a couple months ago about the general plan. I handed out, here's some of our small area planning projects. We've been able to tick a couple of those off in the last couple of years with some grant funding that we've received through Wasatch Front, but we just really don't have the bandwidth to do much more than that. So we're requesting essentially that senior planner position be restored to what it was in 2017. So we don't have any questions about that. I'll move on. Okay. So the rest of the planning division then is really Again, increase in subscriptions so that we can get the new edition of the Bluebeam software. We use InDesign as well, and we have Adobe subscriptions. So that's kind of just to get my staff the tools that they need to do their jobs. We increased the supplies slightly to align that with what our budget usage has been the last couple of years. It was just a little bit low. And then the equipment amount was also increased back to the pre-pandemic levels. We also did a slight increase on the credit card fees with this division as well. And then we moved out the department, or excuse me, the Chamber of Commerce contribution is now actually coming out of the 1301 fund instead of the business licensing fund. So that's kind of the easy part of this. I don't know, did you want to address then the capital projects that I have? Okay. So we have 4 that were listed. One would be,
It's on page 1 or 2 of the capital project.
yeah. So we have 4 projects listed. One is just a vehicle replacement that we contribute $15,000 each year. I would anticipate that next year we'll replace one of the inspector's vehicles, although I think traditionally we've actually replaced our vehicles with used vehicles from the power fund when they're ready to let theirs go. But we will have need to replace one of those vehicles in 2022. We also have set aside $115,000 for downtown environmental services, which I think that's been there for the property acquisitions that we've been doing, the City Hall project. Because we have the Brownfields grant, we've been using that grant to pay for some of those studies. So I think maybe next year we probably won't have this in here, but we thought it would be good just to leave it in this year as we get through the rest of that project with 4800 South and see if there's any need for those funds to be used. And we also then have kind of just a rolling balance of $54,435 for building abatement. This would help out if we got into a situation where we had like a demolition order that property owner was not willing to demolish on their own, and we got a court order to go in and do a demolition. Not something that we anticipate having, especially since the Fountain of Youth building has been coming down over the last year. That was really, I think, one of the buildings we were concerned about. There's really not any other buildings out there to our knowledge, but you never know. If there were to be some type of a fire or something, it's just kind of a safety cushion for us should we need that. And then the last one would be a document scanning project in preparation for moving from the Public Services building over to a new City Hall. We'd like to get a lot of the documents that we have scanned and stored electronically so that we don't have to move the physical files. I should have had the square footage, but there's an old portable schoolhouse out behind our building that's full of building permit documents. We have a pretty large storage room, 2 storage rooms in the building as well that we store plans and building division documents, as well as several shelves full of business licensing documents and our archives for the planning and zoning. So we would really like to start getting those scanned and saved electronically so that we can eliminate the physical files, move less over to City Hall, and be more efficient with being able to find things electronically versus having to go sort through old files. So those are the 4 capital projects that we have listed.
Is your staff going to be able to do all that scanning no?
No, but it would be a good start. So, we can, I think, figure out where we're at with that and continue the process as we move, or if we need to add funding and ask for more. But I think that'll be a really good start. It might maybe get us through. I mean, my guess is maybe it would get us through 25% to a third of it.
That's a massive project.
It is. And the tricky thing too is that a lot of obviously, building plans, they're large, they're blueprint size. They're not something that we can easily scan ourselves. So it's something that really would be better to outsource.
Any questions from the council on any of that? No? All right.
Okay. Well, next we had then the RDA budget, which we'll also go over. What was that?
75.
Yeah, 75. So we'll also go over this in the RDA. In fact, we should add that to the agenda, maybe. As I think out loud here. But I think, there's really not very many changes to this budget. We still, I think as far as our first fund on here is the Central Business District. This is the one that's coming to an end in 2024, I believe, and I'm thinking of the SSOD. Yeah, okay. So Central Business District, this is the one with our project here on 48th South, and it's 2034. Largely we're not really doing much with this budget. We do anticipate that there will be some costs, but we don't know what those will be yet. And so I think our preferred approach has been, when we have a better idea of what those costs will be, we'll just do some budget amendment, a public hearing through that process versus trying to guess now and having to amend it later anyway, because those costs weren't adequate, or they weren't as accurate as we want to be when we're further on down the line. So the next one, page 79, is the fire clay area. This is where we have a large line item to pay for our reimbursements that we have with our development agreements over in the fire clay area. So we've got 3 development agreements that we do reimbursements for. And that's really, I think, kind of the biggest thing that we have in the fire clay area. The smelter site, this is the one that's expiring in 3-4 years now. And we really don't have any projects or anything that's coming out of the smelter site. Page 83 is East Vine, and this is another one that's just kind of wrapping up and kind of just, I don't know, it's in its retirement years, just kind of sitting at home, not doing much, just enjoying the view. Same with Cherry Street. And then ore sampling mill hasn't been triggered yet, so we don't have anything for that project area either. So any questions on the RDA budget? Okay. So we'll get that on agenda for the RDA meeting. And then, as I said, when we really get a better answer on what some of the costs will be on some of the projects we have, we'll add that into the budget later on next fiscal year.
Can I ask a question, jumping back a bit to
Yeah.
business licenses?
Yes.
How often do we look at those rates? Are we like comfortable with where they are? Are they serving us? Are they kind of representative like other areas, or does it get reviewed in a certain like number of years?
So we did, and Jennifer may remember the year, but we did a study, I think a year or two before I started.
I think it was 2017.
So I think probably every 5 years is when we should look at those again. So maybe next year we would want to do an evaluation of those business license fees. So I think we're good for now, but wanting to maybe plan that then in 2022 if it was 2017. I think it's good to look at that every 5 years. So it's a good question.
Thank you. Good to know. Any other questions about anything from these budgets? No? All right. Anything else you want to share with us?
No, just it's good to be back in person and to see everybody. And I've been surprised nobody's faces have fallen off from here down the last year. So that's good. We're just busy. I think the greatest news I shared at the front end, which was we have 3 inspector positions and they're all filled. So
That is great news.
yeah, it is.
Well, thank you so much. We
Hey,
appreciate it. And with that, we will move on to the fire department with Chief John Harris. Is he with us online? Welcome.
There we go. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, yes.
Hey, John.
You sound great.
Hey, John.
Hey, good afternoon. How's everyone doing?
How are you doing?
Great.
Doing good. This is going to be the fun part, the exciting part of your day.
Love that.
Okay, you got a certain format you'd like to follow?
You know, just whatever you want to tell us about your budget, any changes from last year, how you're doing as we recover out of COVID, and just anything you think we should know.
Okay. Well, I think I would start off. Thank you for putting that on. If you look at the first page under staffing, you'll see that the number 64 personnel has stayed the same.
47.
Yeah, anyways, you might notice that we had one title change, but our personnel stayed the same. That's the only thing to mention there. Let's go down a little bit. I keep trying to go down on my screen. It's not very effective. Okay, so if you look at part-time wages, you'll notice that went up a little bit. We've expanded our part-time program. This helps out with not only CERT and Pub Ed, but it also helps out to have some of our inspectors go out and inspect all the fire sprinkler systems. So we've really, Joey Middleman's been in charge of this, and he's done an excellent job. It's a very cost-effective way to get quite a bit of work done with these part-time programs. And the people that we've hired for this are retired firefighters. So we have a tremendous amount of experience, and it's worked out very well. Any questions about that so far?
No questions so far.
Okay, let's go ahead and move down to the next sheet. Let's see, can you go a little farther so you can see? Yep, that's it. Okay, thank you. Who's managing my sheet for me?
That's Brenda.
Brenda, thank you, Brenda. Appreciate that. Okay, so if you look down a little bit, you see that emergency management CERT line that's down 53%. Actually, what we've done is we've recategorized that money down to the line before the last under fire prevention. So there's really not a change in either one of those budget lines. It's just a move.
John,
Yes.
I'm not being very good at following this, but what What I would like to say is that you brought the overtime down, and I really appreciate that. That's great that you were able to do that.
Oh, well, let's go back up and look at the overtime line. I don't know if I deserve all that appreciation. Let's,
Yeah.
so are you looking at 306 down to 233?
Yes.
Well, I appreciate that sentiment, but that's not exactly what happened.
Oh, okay. Well,
I appreciate it anyways.
it looks
You see
good
the
to me.
line underneath it, FLSA overtime?
Oh, gotcha.
So what we've really done is divided that overtime line and separated out.
Oh, okay.
And it helps us really keep track of overtime by doing that.
Okay. All right.
I think it's the best. Brenda, did you want to explain that any further?
The other thing that's in there is when they go out on fires, some of that fire reimbursement gets put up into overtime. So his overtime budget originally did not start at 306. It probably was closer down into the 233. It might have been maybe 300, but the fire, when they come back and they're going to get reimbursed, we increase that overtime so that he doesn't go over budget. With money from the state of California and the state of Colorado and whoever pays us.
That makes sense.
Right.
Okay.
And, you know, Diane, from my perspective, the FLSA overtime is overtime that fire personnel that work shift work, they get automatically every couple of weeks based on they work more than 40 hours a week. They work what's called a 56-hour work week. So that portion of my overtime, I have no discretion over. So the line 41,115, that overtime, that is the one that's caused by sick and vacation and injuries. And by separating that line, it lets me really look at it carefully and keep an eye on it and adjust my staffing as needed throughout the year so that I do not go over it.
Gotcha.
Does that make a little better sense?
It does. I appreciate that.
Okay. Okay. And I really appreciate Brenda separating those because it makes it easier for us here to keep track of things.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Let's shoot. Okay, that's perfect right there. The thing you'll find probably interesting there is if we look about the middle of the second list of numbers, there's one you'll see called Knox box equipment. And you'll see that we have 60,000 allocated for that. And so I wanted to take a minute and just tell you about that program. So businesses throughout Murray have, the best way to describe it is kind of like a little safe. It's about a 5-inch block, 5 inches square, a little cube, if you will, that we usually mount somewhere near the front door of a business. And the fire department has a key for this, which we call a Knox box key, which enable us to get access into the building after hours. So kind of the typical thing that happens is a fire alarm goes off for some reason in the middle of the night. We respond, and rather than have to break into the business, we can just use our key to get in that Knox box. And it's been a very successful program. But one thing that we've realized now over time, it also poses a big security risk because we have those keys in all our engines and ambulances and staff car vehicles. And if one of those keys was lost, somebody in theory would have access to several hundred businesses in Murray.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Yeah. And of course, the key's not marked that, so hopefully somebody would know what they got. But in now digital age, they have a whole new program for a digital key. And the digital key requires that our employees put their code in it to actually even remove the key from the apparatus. It's locked in there. And it registers everything that's done with that key. So we'd have a timestamp of when the employee took it out of the apparatus. We'd have a timestamp for when it was used in a certain building and when it was replaced. And if for any reason that key is ever lost, we have the ability to remotely shut off that key. So all of a sudden it puts all those security things at bay. We don't have to worry about it anymore. But it is a process to switch over all the Knox boxes in Murray. And we kind of talked about different ways to institute this program. And we made the decision that it'd be better to do it over 2 years and get all the Knox boxes done in Murray. And it will be 60,000 allocated this year and 40,000 allocated next year.
Question,
Brent, is there
John.
anything? Go ahead. Yes.
This is Brett. On
Yeah.
those lock boxes, what is that a requirement for all businesses, or do they choose to do that? And if they choose to do that, how many businesses? What's the percentage of the businesses that do it?
I don't know percentage. You think we have about 400 out, I think, right now?
Okay,
Yeah, we have about 400 of them.
that's a lot.
Yeah. So when you say every business, our fire marshal determines. So for example, you might have a strip mall with several businesses that has one Knox box. So it's not necessarily every front door has one.
Okay,
I think some businesses were grandfathered in, but all new ones that are done, yes, we are requiring a Knox box to be put in.
okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. And what also is great about this program is other cities in the valley are also going to it. So what happens right now is if another fire department comes in our area, they would not be able to access our Knox box. So in theory, they might have to break down the door to get in. But with this digital key system, we'd be able to access any of them in the valley. And like I mentioned, we would know who was getting access. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Joey Middleman just wrote me and said since 2018, the Knox boxes have been required.
Perfect. Thanks, John. Thanks, Joey.
Yeah. Yeah, a very good program. Okay. Let's look down. We're 4 from the bottom, professional services. You'll see that one's gone up from 11,000 to 18,000. You may recall I've mentioned this to you in the past. There's 2 programs I've initiated with the help of my staff, of course. I don't get to take all the credit. But one of them is cancer testing. Last year, we did it for the first time. This is a blood test that tests for the common cancers that firefighters experience. It tests for markers in your bloodstream. So last year was the first year we did it. We did get 4 positive markers from employees. And so they need to follow up and find out what is going on with that. Due to employee rights and HIPAA, I don't have the ability to follow up and find out what happened. It's a very personal thing, but it does tell me the program probably has some degree of success. So we're going to continue with that cancer testing. The other thing that line includes is mental health counseling, which this last year we did see quite an uptick in the amount of use of our personnel to use the counseling. I would probably attribute that to 2 different things. One, Jordan Peterson, who's in charge of our mental health program, has done a very good job, if you will, marketing that it's okay to go get counseling, kind of remove the stigma, and people are doing that. And as you know, last year was a pretty stressful year for a lot of people. So I think that had a little bit to do with it also. Any questions about that?
Yeah, it sounds like a great program. I'm really glad you're doing that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and the city council, I really appreciate it. You were very supportive of us starting and expanding that last year, and very appreciative. I think it's gone well.
One question on that. Do you provide an on-site therapist, or do they go to their own that they choose? How does that work?
Okay, so there's 2 different programs that simultaneously going on. Our city provides an employee assistant program, EAP. Mm-hmm. And we have found that the EAP is effective often for things such as marital problems, financial problems, stress, maybe not specifically work-related, just life problems, life issues. But when we have an employee who has PTSD, more stress related to specifically on the job, specific calls that have occurred, when we have that, we send them to a separate place called the Partridge Group. And our police departments use them for years. They're very widely recognized among first responders. And the employee goes to the Partridge Group's office for that counseling.
That's great. Thank you for walking me through that.
Yeah, there are several other programs that we're considering. And I don't know if we need to get all that right now, but there's two things about therapists. One, they don't like leaving their office. They want people to come there. And the second thing is, I want to avoid the stigma of having everyone know they went to counseling because the counselor came here, right? It's like advertising it. So we usually try to do these things off duty for the privacy.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, let's, Brenda, you want to move to the third sheet? Okay. I don't know if there's anything really here that's significant to mention, other than you'll notice at the very bottom, the total fire department, you'll see that we remain very flat, only a 1% difference from last year. So, it was a pretty unusual year as far as budget. We're going to come in probably under budget in several items. And the reason for that is we received some COVID funding for some supplies, some federal funding, which has been nice.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay. And let's see the last page.
Capital.
The CIP.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's see.
Page 1.
Page 1. Oh, that's exciting.
Okay, so we look at our capital improvement program. We'll see the very first column has our 2022 requests. So you may recall we ordered a fire engine last year because it was taking about 8 months. I think now it's taking a little bit longer. COVID delayed things. So it's good we got that order in. But I think we're expecting that fire engine to show up around October. And you'll see we have some equipment for the new truck at $80,000. You'll also see that we plan to order a new brush truck. That's the Type 6. A Type 6 brush truck, that is what we use on wildland deployments, to let you know. It's kind of like a pickup truck with a big pump in the back. And we're also going to get a new battalion chief vehicle. That also is a pickup truck with a shell. That the battalion chief's the one who's in charge of the shift for the day. That's the vehicle they drive around. And in the back of the vehicle, it has like a command center where they can handle the radios, and has a big whiteboard so they can keep track of all the units that are on scene. And that is our capital improvement plan for next year.
John,
Yes.
it's Diane. I'm wondering, what do you use a brush truck for?
So the brush truck, like I said, the pickup with a pump, it has 4-wheel drive. So we use it internally here, like when we have fires, such as when on the Jordan River Parkway. But we also use it quite often for field fires and for fires outside. So it's gone, what did it go last year, Chad? Did it go to Provo last year? Yeah, it went to Utah County locally. And then we also sent that to California twice. And Colorado, yeah. Twice to California and once to Colorado last year.
Okay, and they reimburse us for that, right?
Yeah, they reimbursed us quite well for that.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Any other?
It's, and just to let you know, we weigh the decision to send some of our resources out of state very heavily. Before we make that decision, we look very carefully at not only the qualifications of the people that we're sending, because we want to make sure they're safe, but also at what resources we have here in Murray, and to make sure that we realize our first priority is to serve the citizens of Murray. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, great job, John. Thank you. And Chad, I can hear Chad in the background.
Yeah, sorry. Chad and Laura are here in the peanut gallery making faces at me.
Hello.
Hi, Chad and Laurie.
Laura would do that. Chad would never do that.
No. Yeah, Chad's got too much class. That's it.
Chad's too busy saving
I
ducks.
don't know about that.
Oh, you guys saw that saving duck call.
That was a pretty
those
good
were
post.
some of my favorite calls.
It was probably the only post I've seen on Facebook that was positive, so that was cool.
That is nice to have that in there. Yeah. Well, is there any other questions I can answer about budget or anything else?
I just want to say thank you. I know you're very responsible with your budget, and we really appreciate that.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, Laura and I, we're a really good team. You know, we're the ones who shop at Savers and sew patches on our clothes and fix things. And I tell you, I think several times companies try to send, I think, government agencies bills and just try to sneak them by, thinking that the person who pays them is not very aware of what's going on and they can just easily get reimbursed for whatever they bill for. Laura's on it. We question everything and we look at it carefully. So yeah, she does a great job.
Well, we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. And I don't see any other questions here. So that's all from us. And thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you. I appreciate all your support.
Thank you. All right. We are a little bit ahead of schedule. Is the chief on if he wants to go early, or do one of the Jennifers want to go now?
Jennifer's.
Sure. I'll go.
You first want to get yours over with? Sure. I mean, it'll be delightful. So over with it is the wrong way to say it.
It's going to be really fast.
That's unusual because your budget is usually way long, so like ours, huh?
Yeah.
Very exciting.
So the mayor's office budget is on page 22.
Thank you for the page number.
Yeah.
I even wrote myself a note to ask each time, and yet I forget each time. Page number.
So just looking at the staffing, we don't have any changes there. Really, we don't have any changes anywhere in our budget. It stayed pretty static. You will see in books and subscriptions, we moved some money from supplies to books and subscriptions just to properly reflect what we're paying for out of the line item. But besides that, we are steady. Were there any questions on our budget?
I'm just wondering about the ice cream social and boards and commissions dinner. Are we feeling optimistic?
Yes. So
Those are happening.
Well, we sent out, instead of having the boards and commissions dinner, which we usually do in January or February, we sent out some gift certificates to our board and commission members. But we are planning on holding the ice cream social, even if we do it in a similar manner that we did last year with everything already bagged and ready to go. We do like to hold that event to thank our employees.
That's awesome. I think the creative ways of the bag and go that, I mean, I've seen here at the city, but other places too, just, I think it really matters. Like I've seen with my state day job of, even though we can't have the big parties anymore, but you do feel appreciated to have those grab and goes. So I think it's great that you figured out how to do it different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good. Any questions, anybody? All right, that was exciting.
Okay, I know.
Just check it off the list. Well,
See if the other Jennifer's is exciting as
do you want to do yours now? Let's do it.
confident.
And I
love it.
apologize for calling you both the Jennifers, but my youngest is Jenny, and we always sing the Jennifer songs to her.
I think we're used to it at this point. We've been working long enough together that it's quite common. Okay, so the city council budget is on page 20. Couple of things on that one. Travel and learning has gone up. We're hoping to be able to attend conferences again, and a big portion of that is the Washington, D.C. conference. And we will have the possibility of 2 or 3 new council members, so that's important for them to be able to go to that. Professional services went down, and that's because we moved $16,000 from that account over to CIP for our agenda management system. That's what that was for. And additionally, I've been asked, Councilmember Cox asked about the youth chamber and how they attend the local officials day every year at the Capitol. seems like when they get there and they get to the lunch, they're kind of scattered. We don't know how many of them are there. We can't plan for them. So he was asking if we could just add that money to our budget possibly and just pay for their attending that at the Capitol. And that way we'd know who's coming and how many.
About how much would that be?
So I asked Sherry Bibber last night. She said on average they have between 8 to 12 kids and 2 adults. So I planned on 12 kids and 2 adults. It was $90 the last time we went, so I just rounded it up to $100 in case they increased. So $1,400 would be the amount.
Okay.
So if you guys want to do that, we can add that and talk about it tomorrow.
Nice to not have to, figure out where and if they are, and it's.
Okay, I'll add that to our list for tomorrow then. And that's all I had, unless you guys have any questions.
No, I just want to thank everybody's support for that. I think that's a good deal.
Okay.
What is it with you and wanting to support the youth? What is up with you?
Second childhood, buddy. I'm coming back around.
Yeah, it's great. Thanks, Dale.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that. That's great. And thank you, Jennifer. And so let's see, our next one is the chief at 2:15. So if he's not on, should we take a 30-minute break and we'll come back at 2:15 to talk about the police department. Thank you so much. Awesome. All right, we are back after our break. And we're going to pick back up with the police department. And Chief Burnett, are you on with us?
I am here.
Hello. It's so good to hear your voice. We would love to hear about your program.
Upstairs, avoid or not in person though. But.
No, we love seeing your face too. Look at that face.
Well, it wasn't on my screen yet when I started the sentence.
The light above my desk tends to wash out and give me a little bit of a spotlight and shines off my white hair. So
it does. Very nice.
I hope it doesn't wash everything out.
Looks fabulous. All right.
Okay. Let me adjust my volume here.
We're on page 43. Thanks, Brenda.
Thank you.
And we'll just let you take us through what you think we should know and how you're doing.
Well, we'll start out with the staffing. If you'll notice, last year we had one deputy chief. This year it shows two. We did have 4 lieutenants, but during last year, when Tom Martin retired, we used that position to get a second deputy chief. And let me just tell you what my thinking was there and where we're at. The command structure of the police department, especially the top part, hasn't changed in the whole time I've worked here. So that's we know that's a long time. The department's grown. Responsibilities have changed. There's a lot of things going on that need a lot of work, and it was a lot of work for just one person as a deputy chief to oversee a lot of the day-to-day operations. When I was made chief years ago, 7 years ago, I had talked with then Mayor Iyer about doing what we've done now. The timing budget wasn't right at the time, so we had held off on that. So that being said, we used that lieutenant's position to upgrade to a deputy chief so that I could have one that would oversee all the day-to-day operations in the uniform officers of patrol and those officers, and someone else who would oversee administration and our investigations, our crime lab and everything else. So it was really helped splitting that off. Now, because we didn't get a body for that, I would like to get the lieutenant's position back that we had before. And that's, we've had 4 lieutenants. Currently, we're at 3. One of them oversees the afternoon and the graveyard patrol officers, and everything that goes on at night with our patrol. Another lieutenant does our community services, which is our community-oriented policing, our school resources, motors, all of those officers, as well as taking care of our day shift patrol. So we have 2 that work under a deputy chief, and oversee the operations of our uniformed officers. Now, one of the other lieutenants is our investigations lieutenant, oversees our detectives and everything that goes on in that area. The other lieutenant had been an administrative lieutenant who works with our administrative section, works with our crime lab and our property room, oversees our training, our video, body camera and car video, any grants and other things that go along with that. So there's quite a bit of administrative work that lieutenant was doing, and that's what this is showing the fourth lieutenant this year. So we're hoping to get that lieutenant back to help oversee that. With the some of the regulations and things that we've been asked to do by the legislature this year, it's increasing our training, required mandated training that we have to make sure all of our officers get the training and they get the proper training to meet those requirements. Also, we're looking at implementing a mental health unit that this lieutenant would be working with this unit in ways to help our citizens and our officers as they deal with a lot of the mental health issues that we come across pretty much every day, and also deal with our working with our policy and procedures. And we recently just changed reporting systems, went from Spillman to Versaterm, which is why we still haven't been able to get you any stats for a couple of months. We're still working on that as we get up and going on that. So there's a lot of work that we have looked at that we need that other lieutenant for. So that's the difference there on our staffing. The only other change there is we are changing the title of our record supervisor to that of an office administrator supervisor, since she's doing a lot more than just supervising records. So that's just a change in classification on her. Other than that, we haven't, we don't have any other changes or additions on our staffing.
Chief?
Yes.
It's Diane. Excuse me. We had talked, and I'd mentioned before about having a mental health professional, but you mentioned about a mental health unit that the lieutenant would oversee. So what does that mean?
Yes, I'll be glad to talk about that. We, since we talked, we have been doing a lot of research and a lot of talk. Joe Tarver did a lot of work on this before he abandoned me.
Right. All of us.
Yeah. This is a great thing for him. But in the process, what we were looking at was how we could advance the services we're doing, whether it's hiring somebody full-time, which with a program that we don't have in place, we were not sure how we would go about that, but we were looking into that. Talking with West Valley and Unified Police, they both have their program is very similar to what they both do. And through grants, they work with, well, it used to be called Uni. It's now called, find my paperwork they have here on it, but I want to make sure I get it right before anyway, with the Huntsman Mental Health Institute, which is what used to be called Uni at the University of Utah, and Salt Lake County Behavioral Health and Adult Protective Services, but mostly through formerly Uni, but this Huntsman Mental Health Institute. They have social workers that they are contracted with through Uni to work with their mental health units. So they have team of officers. We would have, for a department our size, a couple of officers that would also be able to work with this team from Unified Police. They have approached us and asked us to join with them. And in doing so, we'd have access to these resources, which include licensed clinical social workers and crisis workers that would be available as needed to come out with our officers on specific incidences or people that we have ongoing issues with, or that need more in-depth help than what we're able to give them, and we'd be able to utilize all these resources that come with this program that they have. So it wouldn't cost currently, and we're thinking this would be a great way for us to get started. We get to be part of a team that's already up and going with the resources that they have through this program with Huntsman Mental Health Institute and their crisis workers that work with us, and be able to see how that works for us. If we need something else, we could look at how we would advance that. But to start with, this is the same program that West Valley's using, and the same thing with Unified Police. But we've been asked to join Unified Police, which would cost us nothing other than the manpower for our officers that would be part of this team and would be doing the follow-up.
And they've had good results?
In fact, trying to see it, they're saying they've seen I know I had something here where they wrote, or the Unified Police say that their calls for the continual mental health calls, anyway, once, that we get the constant recalls on anything else have dropped dramatically since they started the mental health. And I think we see where that could help, because we'd be able to, the patrol officers that go there, and we'd be able to get somebody there who has some training, get them in touch with the social worker, get them in touch with Adult Protective Services or Child and Family Services, or whatever it is that we're seeing the stress and the issues are, and get them the help. So they're saying they're seeing a lot of success, and they came asking for us to join up and be a part of that. And we're looking at that as a good way to get started. We've had a lot of conversations. In fact, we're ready to start implementing.
Good.
Working with them come the new budget year.
That sounds like a good start. I just want to make sure that you have all the resources that you need made available to you, because I know it's not an easy job. So whatever we can do to help.
We appreciate your suggestions, and it's something that we have been talking about and looking at. And as we've met with other agencies and departments, that I think as a start, this is a very good start. It's not going to cost Murray City a lot of money, but it gives us a good start, a good way of seeing, okay, this is what they're doing, this is how we're doing it, and then we can look at that as it goes along, whether we think we need something different, or how Murray would need to do anything differently, or if this type of a program is helping us and helping our citizens.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for all of that information. That was really great to hear.
I know it's important. It's something we've been looking at, and I know you're all concerned about those needs within our community, and so are we. We're seeing, especially this last year with everything that's gone on with people being in their houses and the COVID things. It's really, we've seen a huge uptick in some of the mental health calls, and we think this will be not just helpful for us. I mean, we look at it that way, is how it's more like what can we do to help some of our citizens that don't have access to things. So we're hoping that works, and we're glad to let you know how that goes as we go along.
Yes, we'll love to hear updates as it goes. And it's just so great. I feel like there's so many cities out there reinventing the wheel with public safety right now. And not that that's a bad thing, but it's a huge burden to be inventing a structure, right? And so I think it's so great that we can partner with Unified Police and, try out these different services and it just seems like a really smart way for the budget, smart way for the community, and hopefully sort of a realistic one as far as the burden on you and your staff as you navigate all these things. So it's just really great to hear that collaboration's available.
And then I think that's what really helped us, because we would have to start something new. It would be very expensive to the city. And here they're saying, come join us and you can use all our resources. And it's a good start. And we can, like I say, we can always address it as we go along if we feel we need to do something different. This is, I think, is a good start for the city and the things we might have coming up.
Absolutely.
Okay, so without going through everything in the budget, I essentially submitted a budget that was the same as the budget we submitted before we did the cuts for COVID. So there are line items in here that show a significant increase. Those are all areas that we just wanted restored back to the pre-COVID budget so that we could, so we're not, we weren't asking for additional, we were just asking to have the same as what we had before for our, some of them would be the travel and learning. I think that one we're wanting that one reinstated in our administration, as well as equipment maintenance. In patrol, the one that we increased was the radar gun replacement. We didn't do anything with that last year. And it's not just that we're buying equipment, but we use that money to calibrate our machines. Those speed trailers that we have out in the neighborhood comes out of that money as well. So crossing guard supplies and community services shows a huge increase. We cut that considerably last year. We had bought a lot of equipment just before the end of the year, but we will need to replace some of that equipment this year. So we were asking for that to be replaced. So really, that's kind of what we were looking for in our budget. Nothing that we're asking for different than what we've had in the past. Questions?
Any questions?
You're current on your vest replacements. Everything's good there. You've got enough money to do that.
Yes. Yeah. We're able to rotate those vests out, and with the money we have in there, they're good for five years. So every 5 years we replace whatever percentage of the vests are, and the money we have is enough. Seems to be working so far to keep us up to date on those.
I have a question, and that is, so I know the number hasn't changed on this as far as money, but for a resident looking at our SWAT supplies, can you talk a little bit about what that means, what those supplies are, and why it's important for our officers to have them, what they use them for a city our size? Would you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, most of what the SWAT supplies pays for is the same thing that Dell was just talking about. They have higher rated vests and equipment that they use. So we're also replacing their vests, which cost considerably more than what the officers use. It also pays for upkeep on the equipment that we have, making sure that our less lethal equipment is up to date, operational, and just kind of whatever else equipment wise. It's not buying anything new. It's just keeping what we have and keeping the, we have a firearms and a budget that covers the ammunition and the things we use for training and what we use for the officers. But the things that are used in by the SWAT team are come out of a separate budget. And also we use that also to pay for a lot of their training when they need to go out of town, or they have specialized training that comes in, we use money out of that SWAT supplies budget.
Thank you for detailing that. I think it's important to just kind of explain what that is. Any other questions from anyone else? Then I'll ask another question. Okay. So we got to talk a little bit with the fire department about mental health, and I was just wondering what resources you have mental health wise for your department, and if you feel like you have enough as far as just general mental health or PTSD or that kind of thing, and just want to make sure you feel supported and have what you need there.
Yes, thanks. We have a doctor that we utilize for our pre-employment evaluations. We use them for officers who are struggling, who might have issues that we feel they need to deal with. They come in, and we will have them come in regularly, about once a year or so, and talk to our officers about mental health and things they can do and the resources they have and how to help deal with it. So we have a good place for our officers to go. It's, just depends on the need sometimes as to whether we run out of money out of our budget that is budgeted for that. But usually we're pretty good. And along with that, a lot of our officers are members of the Fraternal Order of Police, the FOP, which is kind of like an association or a union. But as part of that, they also pay for each officer so many visits for mental health that they feel needed. So, we have the resources there. We try to make it available to the officers as much as we can. We work it into our training as best we can. But are we doing enough? We hope so. Could we do more? I'm sure, yes, we probably could. It's just a matter of where and what and how we do that as we go along.
Thank you for sharing that. I'll ask any questions again. I don't have any more this time. I'm just checking. No? All right. Is it CIP time?
CIP, let's see what
Let's see. I almost forgot about
page
it.
2.
Page 2. All right. Thank you, Brenda.
Okay, on the CIP, we're asking again for 12 vehicles, like we do every year, to help keep that rotation and keep our fleet in working order. That's worked really well, and I think we've got a pretty good fleet right now. And then thanking you for giving us some of that money back at mid-year. Those vehicles have been ordered, but in this day and age, I don't know when they'll get here, but we do have 6 more vehicles ordered that should be coming. So
Craig, are they taking like an extra, not 6 months to get here, are they?
Well, the thing is, what the vehicles, when we order them, whether it's a Dodge or Ford, they only run production for the police package vehicles certain times a year. So it depends on when you get your order in as to when they come. If we order them in July, we can usually guarantee or bank on them coming in anywhere between November and February. This year it's been a little slower because of a lot of reasons with some of the issues they're having at their plants. But
you mean due to COVID?
We've just ordered them during mid-budget. I haven't talked with Fleet. Usually he's pretty good. Cody's pretty good at letting us know when they're on their way. We haven't heard anything yet, but they're usually about 6 months.
Okay.
And that's just because they only, like I said, they only run production for those a few times a year, not all year long.
All right. Thanks, Craig.
We also have our $50,000 for the small equipment replacement program. We use that for cameras, radios, computers for the cars, and kind of any other incidental damage that we have during the year with some of our high dollar equipment. Like our handhelds that the officers carry on their belt are almost $5,000 a piece. So those Luckily, they last a long time, but if one were to be damaged, you have to replace them. They're a little pricey. The other thing we have on there is $50,000 for the armored vehicle rehab. Now, just what that is, many years ago through the military surplus, we got an armored vehicle that we've been utilizing for years. It's a 1979 truck that it can't make it up the hill at 53rd and State. And it's just, like I say, it's 1979. It's seen better days. So we had looked into getting another surplus vehicle from the military, which we did. Now, these are vehicles that we use strictly for high risk, dangerous situations, not something we use every day. In fact, a lot of people never see them because they stay in the garage and only taken out on rare occasions. And so, we have this new vehicle from the military that we want to repaint and kind of make it more useful for us and not look so military-ish. So that's what that money's for if you chose to fund that for us.
Great. I think that's a good idea.
That current vehicle does go down the hill okay at 53rd though, right?
Oh yeah. It's heavy. So you get some good momentum. It'll just get out of the way because I don't think it'll stop.
All right. Any questions from the council?
No, just a big thanks to your department and to you, Chief.
We appreciate your support.
Yes, you have it.
All right. Well, unless I've missed a page, that felt like a really short CIP. That was exciting.
Yeah, that's all. That is all we have. Usually, we're just looking for our big thing is cars, and that's
Right.
that's a lot of money. So we try to be careful on everything else we ask for.
That's Christmas for Craig. It's cars.
Yeah.
You're not kidding.
Well,
And the rest of the officers, when they hear we're getting new cars, I know they're all out there running down to the shops trying to figure out if they're in the pecking order for new cars.
absolutely. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you and everything you do. And I think we're done with that. All right. Thank you. All
I appreciate it. Thank you.
right. We'll talk to you later.
All right.
We're running a little bit ahead. Do we have either Robin or Jackie available? They're both online. All right. Then Robin, if you're ready to go early, we would love to hear about human resources.
Great, you bet. Hi, good afternoon.
Hello. And if you could tell us what page.
Yep, I am on page 33.
I am not. On my way. All right.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, you bet. So as you know, I usually have a small budget, usually make it pretty simple. I really just tried to leave everything alone. With the budget cuts we were asked to make last year, I did eliminate, I think it was $9,000 from my travel and learning account. And I'm actually only asking to restore $2,000 of that. I have a new staff member who's working on her HR certification. So I just want to make sure we have the resources to help her finish that and then to maintain it with her continuing education credits. So that's basically the gist. If you guys have any questions for me.
Robin, do you all go through the SHRM program, or just you as the HR director? Or
so right now I'm the only one who has it. It's not a qualification, but I'm really a fan of having a knowledgeable staff. So I really encourage them. There kind of is a threshold of so many years in an HR position before you seek that certification. So one of my staff has met that threshold and the other hasn't, but has indicated when she does, she will start working on getting that certification as well.
That's awesome. It's a great program. So thanks, Robin.
Yeah, you bet.
Any other questions or comments from the council? Nope. All right. Well, do you have anything else you want to tell us? Anything else going on? How you doing?
No, I mean, we're just in the middle of open enrollment right now. So just trying to help out with that. So
That's got to be her favorite time of the year.
It's massive.
I like it. It gets us in touch with the employees, you know, so.
Well, thank you. Thank you for everything you do. We really appreciate you and for coming to talk to us today.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right. Well, if Jackie's on, we can hear about the Murray City Employee Association. Oh, in Chelsea. Okay. Hello.
Hi there.
Hello. How are you guys
Hi,
doing?
Jackie. Hi, Chelsea.
Hi. Did you guys hear me? Am my
Yes.
We
audio
can see
working?
you.
Yep. We can see and hear you.
Okay. Yes, I have my sidekick Chelsea here with me too, because, you know, she's not here to hold my hand physically, but, you know, spiritually or whatever.
It's important emotionally. It's good.
Yes, exactly. So we have a letter that we prepared for you guys, and I'll email it to Jennifer afterwards, and then she can get it to all of you guys. But if you guys are okay, I'll just read it, and then, or if you have questions you want to ask first.
You want to read it first, and that'd be great.
Okay. Dear Mayor Camp and council members, the Murray City Employees Association would like to submit this letter to say thank you for all the support you have shown to the employees this past year. We are grateful for all
Sorry,
the
just a minute.
accommodations.
We are having some trouble hearing. I can hear you, but I'm wondering if I'm hearing it from, but you're having trouble hearing down there. I don't know what to do about that.
Yeah, it's probably me. Not as good as.
No, you're fine.
Okay, I'll turn on my hearing aid. Dale told me so. Go ahead, Jackie.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Maybe I'll just talk slower too. Try not to be so nervous. Let's see. We want to submit this letter to say thank you for all the support you have shown to the employees this past year. We are grateful for all the accommodations that were made to keep us safe and employed. We are grateful to the City Council for voting yes to amend the holiday schedule policy to allow employees 4 hours of holiday pay on December 24th for Christmas Eve. We understand that the insurance and dental rates will be increasing this year by 6% and 0.5% respectively. Last year was a very challenging year for many and usage went up. Hopefully this year will help us get back on track and we can get a refund again like we did in 2019. We are grateful to the mayor for his proposal of a 3% COLA increase for all employees, along with the proposal to maintain the step plan increases. Of the 400 eligible positions for the step plan, only 62% of all positions will earn an increase. 34% of the eligible positions won't be receiving anything because they have reached the top of their range. According to the mayor's proposed budget, he said the city has a step plan to compete for and invest in trained and seasoned personnel in local government. Since the step plan was established, the city has seen a decrease in employee turnover. Now that 1/3 of our workforce is trained and seasoned, they're not being rewarded for their hard work and longevity. In times past, an employee in this type of position was given a Redline Bonus. We would ask that you look into ways to reward these employees, whether it be a yearly bonus or something else. We would also like to ask if the MCEA could get the golf cart fees waived for our annual golf tournament that we sponsor every year at the Parks Golf Course. Last year we paid $670 in golf cart fees, and that's about the same cost every year. We thank you for your efforts to provide increased communication with the employees and hope this trend continues. The purpose of the MCEA is for enacting more harmonious working relationship among all employees and elected officials. We're open to your suggestions to help us bridge this gap. Please continue to keep us informed on changes and proposed changes, as this will help enact a more harmonious working relationship. We appreciate your continued support of all Murray City employees, the MCEA, and your participation in our functions and events.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Did you guys have any questions?
Sorry, we're discussing audio issues over here. I could hear, and I think Dale could hear great, and the other two will read the email. We apologize for our audio issues, but I heard, and it sounded great. Any questions or comments just in general from the council?
Just that I heard that you wanted, so $670, is that correct, Jackie, for the golf cart fees for your tournament?
Fees. It's about that, yes.
Did we do that? You probably didn't have it last year, right?
We had done that a couple of times, but then we got it where they were enforcing it so you couldn't waive things like that, because I don't remember why they said they couldn't waive it anymore, but they said it would have to be approved by the council to be able to get that waived because it was an offering or something from the city.
Okay.
I forget the wording, sorry.
No, thank you, Jackie.
So that needs to be included in the addendum where all the charitable contributions are, since they are a separate entity from the city.
Okay, yeah, I'd love to add that for tomorrow for reconciliation.
I'm with you.
Okay, excellent. We will add that to our reconciliations for tomorrow. Thank you for bringing it to our attention. We're happy to support that.
Thank you. And so we're hoping to have a big turnout again this year for our golf tournament, and that would help with the fees.
Absolutely.
So get lunch or whatever.
Golf is on the rise, I'm told.
Yeah.
Last year.
It's one thing that you can still do social distancing, so
right?
it's good.
It is. Was there anything else that you guys want to tell us or share with us?
Just to look into that, the step plan for those employees they used to call it redlined. And so I don't remember what kind of bonus they used to get, but I think it was between like $500 and $800 a year. And so that is something that kind of helped the long-term employees feel appreciated still. And so right now, like we said, we do have a lot of trained and seasoned staff. And so a third of our workforce is there. But if they don't have any reason to stay here, they may still look at other places. And so we may start to have a higher turnover rate in our seasoned employees. So we'd like to keep them here.
Jackie, you're talking about and I know you said this, it just really was fuzzy, so I really couldn't hear. but you said something, bringing about when they're redlined, when they're already at their target salary. And so You're saying that we used to, and I recall a little bit something about, Blair, I think you implemented, didn't you? Did you do that it was Ted? Okay. Anyway, something about the extra amount of money you were saying that was like a bonus, you said, because they weren't getting a raise because of their redlined. Is that correct?
Right. Yes. And I think that's what they called it, was the redline bonus for those that were at the top of their pay grade. But I honestly don't remember what it was. It didn't affect me. So I know that the MCEA had talked about it before because we've had it for a while and then it went away and then they brought it back, but I don't think it was as much as it had been years prior. And then we haven't had it for a while. So just implementing something like that again, I think would be a boost to morale for our seasoned employees.
I think if I recall, when we switched to the step plan, the redline bonus wasn't included anymore. And I think part of the reason for that is that the step plan took into account these employees that have been here a long time and are at the top of the scale and are experienced and seasoned are being paid the top of the scale. And they also receive it because the cost of living increases our percentages. They receive actually higher cost of living as well. And I think that's when that was discontinued. Maybe you remember that different, but I think it was discontinued when the step plan went into place. I'm not saying it couldn't be implemented. It's really late in the process to be talking about it this year. But it's not something that has been brought to me for discussion. And but that really is the crux of it is that an employee who is at the top of the pay scale is being paid adequately for their experience. And we've worked very hard to make sure that that those steps are adequate and are, can't think of the word now, but anyway, that they're adequate and they're being compensated fairly. So that's my recollection of where the Redline Bonus, the so-called Redline Bonus, went.
If I might make a suggestion, why don't we have Brenda look into that, maybe see what a 2% for the red line would be, and if it's something we can fund, because as we do the STEP program, more and more people are going to top out. And maybe if it's something we have the money for and we can fund, maybe we can do a budget opening down the road once we get the numbers and see. And you're right, it's too late it's late in the program now to do it. But in a few months, if we get the numbers, we can look at them and see if we can do a budget opening and do something there.
Yeah, now that you said that, I think it was like $600 or something. Is that right, Brenda?
Yeah, and I don't know
Yeah,
what the
it
percentage
was,
would be.
I believe, I never applied to me either. I believe it was $500 or $600. And part of the STEP plan was to make sure that when you are redlined, you are above the market. When you're at step 12, you are above the market. I don't remember what percentage above the market you are supposed to be when you're hits at step 12. But you're above where you could go find a job somewhere else and get a raise, basically, unless there's some big competition for a certain type of employee. And then the as we have adjusted 13 step plans for 13 different people in our employees, that was because market has changed. And so we adjusted the step plan to change with it. So there will be some people who are redlined who are going to get a raise because of the adjustment in their steps, besides just the COLA. Yes.
Okay.
I still think we ought to look at it though, because even though a person might reach the top of their pay schedule, they are seasoned, they are experienced, and I think we need to show gratitude to that as well. So I still think we ought to look at it and see what that cost will be and see if we can afford it. Yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate this conversation. I think looking into it more deeply and seeing what the numbers look like, and I think we can't, money aside, which is obviously the point of these 3 days, but we can't appreciate our employees enough. And so I think we at least owe the research and the looking at it to see if not this year, if another year we are able to do that. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. We really appreciate it. And the
It helps to understand what Brenda was saying too, with how and the mayor, how they worked it out and why it's at what it is. So that's good to know too. So we can take that back and let the employees know that that's the reason behind it too, until something else comes along.
Absolutely. Well, great. Okay. Well, I think that's all the questions and comments we have on our end. Thank you for joining us today and for sharing with us your thoughts and what's going on with the employees. And we appreciate you.
Thank you. We appreciate you guys too.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jackie.
You're welcome.
Okay. And with that, we are adjourned.